Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome back to our channel once again. And it is my hope and prayer that the video is going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I am fine, as you can see. Kisumu is fantastic, and maybe you could also let me know where you're watching the video from. The county or the country, in case you are out of the republic. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin this video by asking you one or two questions. The first question I wanted to ask you is, what is your take about Fred Matiang'i's bid for the presidency in 2027? Is it viable? I'm asking that question because Fred Matiang'i appeared in Kitui yesterday. I'll do a separate video about that. And the other day, for those who follow this channel, I did a video about Fred Matiang'i and why he needed to make those kind of appearances. The second question I wanted to ask you, what is your take about Uhuru Kenyatta's move to second his people to work with William Samoei Arap Ruto? I'm asking that question in regards to Fred Matiang'i's presidential bid. Because for a very long time, most people had assumed that Uhuru Kenyatta was going to be the force behind Fred Okengo Matiang'i. For me, I've been looking at those appointments. And yesterday, I did a video why I strongly believe that Ruto is the biggest loser in those appointments. But of course, there are also winners. And one of the winners in those appointments, in my view, is none other than Fred Okengo Matiang'i. Despite the fact that there's a possibility that Uhuru Kenyatta has betrayed him. In this video, I want us to do a critical analysis why I strongly believe that Uhuru Kenyatta has actually betrayed Fred Okengo Matiang'i. But before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click that subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me to dive in. But again, before I dive in, allow me to also take this opportunity to introduce you guys to LemFi. LemFi is a mobile money app for users in the UK, Canada, and the United States of America to send money back to Kenya. They offer the best exchange rates, and the money will be delivered instantly into your Mpesa account, Airtel Money account, and of course, if you want, directly into your bank account. You can use the link in the pinned comment to download the app. Ladies and gentlemen, why do I strongly believe that Uhuru Kenyatta has betrayed Fred Matiang'i? Before I give you all those details, first of all, let us look at the situations as they are. The first fact is that Uhuru Kenyatta nominated his allies to the cabinet, but he failed to nominate Fred Matiang'i. In my view, and in the view of most Kenyans, if Uhuru Kenyatta were to make one appointment, the first person would have been Fred Matiang'i, unless William Ruto rejected. So the failure to consider Matiang'i whilst nominating 4 people, or 3 people for that matter, is something which for me is an act of betrayal. The second fact is that Fred Matiang'i actually stuck his neck out for Uhuru Kenyatta when he was the cabinet secretary for interior. Even after leaving office, Fred Matiang'i was one of the targets by William Ruto and his regime. He stood firm. So I would have expected Uhuru Kenyatta to at least consider him. And if not consider him, remember, these developments are coming at a time when the news had already reached Kenyans, or emerged in the Republic of Kenya, that Fred Matiang'i was planning to run for the presidency. Uhuru Kenyatta knew so well that Matiang'i was laying the ground, because Matiang'i had actually hired some Canadian lobby to conduct some study to see the opportunities available in case he decides to run. So I consider it an act of betrayal, because if you look at it critically, there's also some other things. Fred Matiang'i's loyalty to Uhuru Kenyatta cannot be questioned. He's loyal, just like Junet is loyal to Raila Odinga. You can't question Junet's loyalty. That's how you cannot question Fred Matiang'i's loyalty. So Uhuru seconding his people to work with Ruto at a time when when Matiang'i is planning something, that's for me is It's not good. Number two, Fred Matiang'i also had the opportunity of joining William Ruto. Remember when they were piling pressure on him, he had to leave the country, I think so. So he had the opportunity of joining William Ruto, but he rejected those moves. So by Uhuru doing this, I think it's kind of betrayal, unless they agreed. Then we also know that Matiang'i was considered the best cabinet secretary. In fact, the main reason why most Kenyans love Matiang'i is because of the way he performed when he served as a cabinet secretary. And of course, we also know that if there's any individual who took on Ruto on behalf of Uhuru, it's Fred Matiang'i. That's why immediately when Ruto took over, Matiang'i, Kibicho, there were three individuals. There was Matiang'i, Kibicho, and who? Sit Munya.
Sisi ni public servant. Wewe kama unataka kupigana na wanasiasa, hawa wako hapa wote hawa. Wako hapa mmewaona. Pigana nao. Chumeti yako hapa mmemuona. Gladys Wanga ndio hawa wako hapa mmewaona. Kama mko na maneno, pigana nao. Sisi ni watumishi wa serikali. Huyu Kibicho, sababu mtu mwingine aliniambia siku nyingine Mombasa, na ni kiongozi wa siasa tu, unajua tuna shida na PS wako tu, lakini wewe tunaweza kuongea. Nikamwambia listen very carefully, na ninasema hadharani, huyu PS na mimi tunafanya kazi pamoja. We are like two sides of one coin. This is my principal secretary. I take full responsibility. Ukigusa yeye umenigusa, tuko pamoja. Kwa hivyo usiende huko aanze kuambia watu eti unajua ni Kibicho tunapambana na yeye nini. Hakuna na hakuna. Lazima tuambiane tu ukweli, na wananchi lazima tuambie ukweli, hasa kwa sababu sisi vile niliwaambia, sisi si viongozi wa siasa. Hatupigi debe kupendana huko, kufanyia mapendeleo. Kazi yetu is not public relations, kuimpress mtu. Kazi yetu ni kufanya kazi. Kwa hivyo tutaendelea kufanya kazi, na niseme hapa hadharani leo, the rule we have in security sector, sisi katika usalama wa nchi, na ninawaambia wenzangu commissioners, the edict in security is one. Until you hear from the commander in chief, you move in one direction, forward. That is it. Until you hear from the commander in chief, you move in only one direction. Direction only forward, mbele.
Who William Ruto really tried to punish. But in my view, it is an act of betrayal. Allow me now to explain to you guys why I think, or I consider it, act of betrayal. Number one, the 2027 politics. Most people in the Republic of Kenya believe up to now that William Ruto is the easiest president to remove from office. But the question has always been, who can remove William Ruto from office? Because so far, we have people who have already declared their interest. Matiang'i has not. Kalonzo Musyoka has declared his interest. But Kenyans are not very sure whether Kalonzo can actually defeat William Ruto. Who else? Okiya Mtata has declared his interest. Kenyans are not very sure whether he can defeat Ruto. But the candidature of Fred Matiang'i was actually exciting Kenyans. Kenyans believed that if Matiang'i were to get enough support, especially from Uhuru, because what Matiang'i needed was to get the support of the mountain, which most Kenyans believed Uhuru was holding. Now, with working with Ruto, you are not sure whether you will deliver to Ruto or not. But if you are not working with Ruto, then those Mount Kenya votes would be safely in Matiang'i's basket. You know, Ruto is also banking on Western Alliance. So it means if Matiang'i were to run, then Matiang'i will get the support from the Gusii community to the last man. And of course, in Nyanza here, I stay in Kisumu here. I don't think most people have really embraced this handshake between Ruto and Raila. So he was also going to get enough votes from Nyanza. And Matiang'i's biggest voting bloc was going to come from the agencies who are across the country. And of course, considering the fact that William Ruto has not performed as per the expectation of Kenyans, would also mean that majority of Kenyans were going to side with Fred Matiang'i. So by Uhuru Kenyatta now seconding his team to work with Ruto, it complicates the equation for Fred Matiang'i. And that's why most Kenyans view Uhuru Kenyatta as someone who has betrayed Fred Matiang'i. So that's number one. Number two, I've always told you that 2027 presidential elections in the Republic of Kenya is going to be one of the most expensive elections in the history of the Republic of Kenya. That's the fact. We are not very sure whether Fred Matiang'i would have enough funding. Because let us look at it critically. Uhuru Kenyatta is one of the wealthiest individuals in the Republic of Kenya. He can single-handedly fund Fred Matiang'i if he made him his candidate. Then there is the Mount Kenya Foundation, whom I think Uhuru Kenyatta can easily persuade to raise funds for Matiang'i. Then, of course, Matiang'i also, having served as a principal secretary, he knows where to get the money for campaigns and the goodwill he enjoys. But now, if you remove Uhuru Kenyatta and his resources, which will affect the way the mountain will support, and of course, there are also those who are always willing to put their money on campaigns, but they can only put their money on campaigns if they are very sure. Now, if you remove Uhuru out of Matiang'i's equation, it kind of complicates things in terms of raising money. And for me, I consider Uhuru Kenyatta's act as an act of betrayal unless they were in agreement. Because if there's any other better time for Matiang'i to run for the presidency, it is in 2027. Because in 2032, based on Uhuru Kenyatta's game plan, I think he's going to front the brother. Number three is also the Mount Kenya factor in 2027 election. You see, the 2027 presidential elections in the Republic of Kenya is going to be determined in Mount Kenya. How will Mount Kenya vote? Who are they going to vote for? Mount Kenya has the highest number of votes in the Republic of Kenya. And that's why Ruto is trying so hard to get even a portion of the mountain in 2027. The reason he's bringing on board Uhuru Kenyatta is because he believes Uhuru Kenyatta can deliver the same, or if not, number of votes he delivered to Raila in 2022. If he can get that from the mountain, he'll be safe. But now, if you had, we have impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, which has had serious political implication on William Ruto, then Rigathi is convinced, because Uhuru Kenyatta has the ability to convince Rigathi to back Matiang'i. Then they will automatically consolidate the mountain and lock it out of William Ruto's reach. Then Matiang'i's work could now be to reach out, because someone like Kalonzo Musyoka will have to run. Kalonzo must be on the ballot, but he might not win. So the only viable candidate, in my view, currently is Matiang'i, if you were to get the support. And that's why I'm still not very sure, because maybe Uhuru Kenyatta is also playing games. You can't rule out the possibility that Uhuru Kenyatta is also playing games with Ruto. Because I'm told William Ruto has really pursued Uhuru Kenyatta. He went even to Boston. Uhuru Kenyatta had to move. And it's been piling a lot of pressure on Uhuru Kenyatta. So that Mount Kenya factor. And lastly is, not really last, number 4, is the winning formation. You see, Uhuru Kenyatta, as a former president, would bring some kind of stability to that camp. Just like he helped Raila Odinga in the last election. Because if Uhuru Kenyatta was not there, Kalonzo Musyoka would not have stayed with Raila Odinga. Uhuru, being a former president, he commands a bit of respect. So he would easily help in bringing people to Matiang'i, crafting alliances here, telling, for example, we can persuade Wamalwa not to run, things like those, to support Matiang'i. That winning formation, Uhuru Kenyatta was going to be right at the center. So I don't know how it's going to move forward. And lastly, there is also this thing I always call perception of value in politics. Politics is a game of perception. Now, Raila and his team are with Ruto. Now, Uhuru and his team are now with Ruto. Perceptionally, what does it mean? That Ruto is raiding the opposition, and that the opposition is now weak. We have only Kalonzo, Jeremiah Kioni, Waititu, Wamalwa. So most people will be like, that team cannot really win. So Uhuru has really, in my view, betrayed a man he ought not to have. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Makwiny. Bye-bye.